The Mental Health Association wishes to express its appreciation to the following foundations and organizations for making Claire's story possible. The Sealer Mental Health Foundation, Chagrin Falls, Ohio. The Burton D. Morgan Foundation, Akron, Ohio. Summit County Children's Services, Akron, Ohio. Akron Child Guidance Center. Summit County Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board, Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. Stark County Mental Health Board, Canton, Ohio. Children's Hospital Medical Center of Akron, and the Mental Health Association in Ohio.
Wait a minute, no one like that can be from Minnesota.
You know Brian's girlfriend, she says he looks just like Brian.
Oh my gosh. That's natural. That's natural. Okay, wait. Hi. I gotta go. Mark, go.
Oh, come on.
I'm sorry. Bad. I just said hi.
Mom, can I smell ice cream? Mom, can I smell ice cream? Yeah.
There you go. Thank you.
Do you want to go back? No, we can't go back. Okay. So what happened? Okay, I turned around and he kind of smiled at me, and then I kind of smiled back, and then I had to go. I know.
My name is Claire Fruits. I'm 13 years old. I have a good number of friends, I guess, although sometimes I think nobody likes me. They're all the most interesting people a person could ever meet. They're all really important to me. We like to spend time together. We go to the library after school and then walk to McDonald's for a sundae. Sometimes we have sleepovers or hang out together. Otherwise, we spend hours on the phone. That drives my mom crazy, but she admits it's all part of growing up. Another part of growing up for me is learning to live with my disability. I have depression.
He said something. He said bologna, plastic, or bear?
This is my house and yard. My dad is going to get us in a picture while we're all bundled up and you can't tell who we are. He loves those kind of pictures. My brother's name is Joe. He's in high school. Fritz is not quite a year and a half younger than I am, but she's much smaller, so she makes me look like I'm 17. I have an older sister, too. Her name's Kasha, and she's away at college.
Joe!
And how could I forget? This is Sambi, our wonder dog.
Wait, go back. Okay, there, stop. That's my window. Second story in the middle, like me. That's my room. Looks pretty plain, doesn't it? Nobody can guess the mess that's behind those curtains. Except my mom, she sees everything. Okay, go on.
Okay, I got the camera. Oh, don't use that good scarf. Claire, would you run in the house and get an old scarf? Here, honey. What do you think?
Don't be deceived by these pictures. We don't always get along so well. Sometimes Bridget and Joe are real pains, and my mom and dad holler at us, just like any other family.
Come in for a picture. Come on, Bridget. Come on, Joe. Let's get a picture. Up near the snowman.
But mostly, I guess, my life is pretty good. I like my family, I like my house in town, and even my school is pretty cool. For our school, anyway. So what is there to be depressed about? That's just it. I'm not depressed about something. I'm just depressed, and it could be anything that on any other day wouldn't bother me at all.
Say cheese. Cheese.
Depression has usually been thought of as an illness for adults. It is a very deep sadness that can last for weeks, months, or even years. Persons with major depression can be any age, race, or from any cultural or economic background. They can come from troubled families with many problems, or from happy families with few problems. There are many reasons why persons get depressed, but in all cases we now understand that whatever the reason, a certain biological process goes on in the brain of the depressed person. This is what the human brain looks like. The brain is like a computer in your body. It is the control center for everything you do. Different parts of the brain control different jobs that the body performs. This part of the brain, the medulla, controls involuntary actions such as breathing or heartbeat. This part of the brain, the neocortex, controls voluntary motor activity like walking or playing ball. In the center of the brain is an apple-sized area called the limbic area. This area is a center for controlling our emotions. Like any other organ in our body, the brain can get sick or fail to function properly. Because the brain is a control center, when something goes wrong with it, our other activities are also affected. If something were to go wrong with a part of your brain that controls walking, for instance, you might not be able to walk, even though there was nothing wrong with your legs. Until recently, our understanding of the brain and how it works was very limited. But the 1990s have been called the decade of the brain. Research on the brain and on drugs which affect the way the brain works is helping us to understand the many ways the brain affects our lives and our behavior. Only a short time ago, Claire would have been considered a difficult child. Today, we know that those difficulties come from a problem in the brain.
Money? We could all go downtown. Yeah, I got some. Hey, Charlene, you got any money? Want to cut out? Sure. Hey, Claire, you want to help with that? Mark will be there.
Shut up! Depression means that I cry a lot and can't sleep. I'm really touchy, moody, and boring. I lose interest in everything, even stuff I really love. My life in school was the pits. I couldn't concentrate at all. I thought everything I did was wrong. I used to think about suicide a lot. Not that I thought I'd really do it. I just didn't want to live anymore.
Mental illness in children appears most frequently in the teen years, but it can appear earlier in children as young as 5. Claire's mother believed that Claire was always affected by it, although it was not diagnosed until she was 11.
Even as a baby, Claire would have seemingly unprovoked and lengthy crying spells. She was a quick, creative little girl and very loving, but she seemed unable to control her emotions. She often resorted to shrieking, and this behavior continued through nursery school and into the primary grades. I had resigned myself to the idea that we were raising a difficult child. It always seemed that just when I was becoming discouraged, someone would come forward with reassuring insights.
Pat Armbruster was Claire's first-grade teacher.
If Hollywood Square's your most favorite.
Part of Claire's problem was she wanted to please herself and please me and please a lot of people, and she got very frustrated with this.
The insight that Claire wanted approval and was loving and eager to please but was not able to get her emotions under control was a breakthrough for Claire's mom.
One time when I was very little, I was feeling bad and everything made me angry. I ran into the living room and hid in a corner. It seemed Bridget and Joe were always good and I was always bad.
She said she didn't belong in this family, that maybe she was an alien. I realized that she didn't know what was happening either. We started to watch for patterns which might trigger these episodes.
Claire's behavioral and emotional problems lessened around 4th and 5th grade. She became more cooperative and was doing fine work in school. She began to gather around her a circle of very good friends. But the move to junior high became a turning point. The summer before 6th grade, Claire began to experience nightly insomnia.
I knew something was wrong when night after night I couldn't fall asleep. I didn't think it was the excitement of summer either. My mom didn't believe me at first. But when school started, I was even worse. I started to cry a lot and threatened to kill myself. My mom thought I was so depressed because I wasn't sleeping, but the truth was, I wasn't sleeping because I was so depressed.
Claire's school situation rapidly got worse. She could not sleep at night and was exhausted in the morning. She had difficulty concentrating. She became more and more disorganized, forgetting assignments, books, or even bringing her work to school when she had completed it. She did the wrong assignments. She cried in class when she received poor grades or when she could not think to answer a question. She became irritable, sometimes confused or disoriented. Penny, Claire's mom, met with school personnel several times, but they were uncertain about how to proceed. They acknowledged that junior high was very difficult for some children, and some teachers even reported that Claire seemed no worse adjusted than many of the students there. Perhaps she was just going through adolescence.
If we said,
When the depression was at its worst, I was screaming a lot and crying every day after school.
I'm gonna need some help with this! I'm gonna need some help with this, Dad! I hate this!
That's when my parents got scared and took me to a psychiatrist.
I had spoken with Claire's pediatrician about her inability to sleep, but in that conversation, he discouraged the use of any kind of sleep medication for a child her age, recommending exercise, quiet time before bed, regular bedtime schedule, good sleep hygiene. We followed these directions rigorously, but they did not help. We have mental illness in our immediate family, and I knew that Claire was at risk for a breakdown. She was so stressed that I did not see how she could continue. I also knew that suicide is a leading cause of death for young people. I had read warnings that cautioned that a child should be taken seriously any time he or she would threaten suicide. In desperation, I took Claire back to her pediatrician. He gave her a thorough physical to rule out other possible disorders, and then told me that her symptoms were those of depression.
Is Dr. Johnson available?
I will always be grateful to him.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I think that if a child has significant depression, that it's unlikely that they'll outgrow it. Significant depression always needs to be treated, either with psychotherapy or counseling, and perhaps some medication to help smooth out the wrinkles. But considering what kids can do, obviously they have suicidal thoughts, and sometimes they'll even have gestures or suicide attempts, and occasionally they can be successful. And you don't want to let things slide until you get to the point where waiting it out or hoping that time will take care of it, or just hoping that they'll tough it out, winds up with a child who then is successful in killing themselves because they have no place else to go.
The symptoms of depression in children are the same as those in adults. The primary symptom is a depressed mood lasting more than 2 weeks, accompanied by any of the following symptoms: change in appetite or weight, or in small children, failure to make appropriate weight gain. Observable psychomotor agitation or retardation, loss of interest or pleasure, loss of energy or chronic fatigue, sleep disorders, difficulty concentrating, indecision, feelings of worthlessness or inappropriate guilt, recurring thoughts of death or suicide. Let's look at these individually. Depressed mood may show itself in various ways.
I never felt good about myself. I thought nobody liked me. When kids teased me, I really believed them, and I was very hurt. I thought I couldn't do anything right. I hated myself. I just wanted to be left alone.
While depressed mood is the more characteristic symptom, it is generally accompanied by a combination of other symptoms. Change in appetite or weight.
Sometimes I don't want to eat for a day or so because, well, I'm not hungry.
Other children may simply eat and eat. Eating problems don't necessarily mean you have depression, but when there are other signs of depression as well, they are probably connected. Observable psychomotor agitation or retardation.
That just means you're too active or not active enough. You might feel restless, or the opposite, you just can't get going at all. Some mornings I just sit on my bed. I know I have to get dressed and eat breakfast, but I just can't. Other days I'm dancing all around and can't keep still.
Loss of interest or pleasure.
When I'm really bummed, I don't want to do anything. Everything seems so boring. I even bore myself. It's really sad.
Loss of energy or chronic fatigue. This might have something to do with the lack of sleep or too much sleep.
I fallen asleep everywhere. Sometimes I can't think because I'm so tired. And this can happen even when I've gotten enough sleep. That's another symptom, isn't it?
Yes, number 6 on our chart. Persons with depression may have trouble concentrating or making decisions.
I thought so. Once in Mrs. Harley's class, I couldn't answer the simplest math problem. She said I knew the answer, but I just couldn't think.
I remember teaching a lesson. I was her math teacher, and in order to get to some more involved concept, I was doing something very simple to start out with, and I can't exactly remember what it was, but I do remember asking Claire a very simple, probably computation kind of thing. And she said she didn't know what I was talking about, and I really thought that she was putting me on. So I pushed her, and the more I pushed, the more she insisted that she couldn't do it. And I couldn't believe this, and then I guess I pushed too far, and she lost it. I guess that's how I would explain it. She just totally overreacted. She got hysterical on me. I remember going over to her and feeling that she was just going to, if I touched her, she probably would have collapsed. And I think I did ask her took her outside and talked to her. I was absolutely flabbergasted. The reaction did not seem appropriate to what had gone on.
The 7th point is feeling like you are no good or feeling that you are probably to blame for the things that have gone wrong in your life or the lives of your family or even the world.
We already talked about this one. I sometimes wonder if anyone could love me because I think I'm so awful. When I'm feeling this way, the worst thing is that I know it will never change. No matter how hard I try, I will always be miserable, and then I will die. Life just doesn't seem worth the effort.
That's the last one, Claire. Recurrent thoughts of death or suicide.
I didn't really think I'd commit suicide. That's stupid. But thoughts did keep coming back. What's the use of living? It seemed like all your life you work and work for nothing. I really did want to die.
Suicide is a leading cause of death among children and young people. About 5,000 kids a year succeed in committing suicide. That is the number reported. There are probably more.
But we're not going to talk about that right now because you'll depress us.
Besides, this is my story. My story is happy because there is good news about depression. The good news is that depression is one of the easiest mental illnesses to recognize and treat. But that's the next part of the video. Let's move on to that.
Before we do, Claire, let's go back and summarize. Depression is a brain disorder. It occurs in about 1 out of every 20 people and can affect anyone of any age, race, economic, or social status. While we do not fully understand all of the causes of depression, we do know it is related to a breakdown of normal brain functioning. In addition to a long period of deep sadness, a combination of other symptoms would suggest a diagnosis of depression.
Wait. Okay, before everyone starts freaking out and thinking that they and everybody else in the world has depression, there's some stuff you should know. Everybody gets depressed sometimes. It's normal if you feel nervous or you can't sleep. If you think people don't like you and you get cranky and you don't want to eat something, especially if it's really disgusting, that's normal. It's only when things last a really long time that you should see a doctor and get some help. Okay, you can go ahead now.
In addition to prolonged depressed mood, a combination of other symptoms can indicate depression. These are:
Take notes on this.
change in appetite or weight, observable psychomotor agitation or retardation, loss of interest or pleasure, loss of energy or chronic fatigue, sleep disorders, difficulty concentrating, feelings of worthlessness or inappropriate guilt, recurrent thoughts of death or suicide. Anything else you want to say?
Yeah.
I thought so. Go ahead.
I have depression, but that doesn't mean I'm miserable. I'm not miserable. I got help, and I take some of the credit for myself. After all, I'm the one that told my parents what was going on and how I felt. They and other caring people helped me get the treatment that I needed. So that's part 2 of our story. Let's get on with it.
It would be nice if depression was like a cold. You could take some medicine, rest, and in a few days, you'd be all better. But depression is not a disease. It's a condition. It can last for a few weeks, months, or even your whole life. Because it's a medical problem, it needs medical treatment. I saw lots of different doctors. You already know about Dr. Johnson, my pediatrician. He was the first one to suspect I was depressed. He gave me some medicine for my depression, and when it worked pretty well, it was a good sign we had figured out what was wrong. Because it's a special condition, I needed to see some specialists. The first specialist I saw was a psychologist.
A psychologist is someone who knows a lot about the brain, human behavior, and development. He or she has also been trained in counseling techniques. A psychologist works closely with the child, the family, and other persons affected by the child's depression.
They'll sometimes negotiate. Depression also really needs to be thought of like other illnesses. Sometimes depression just occurs because it occurs. It has to do with the biology of the brain, and for whatever reasons the biology in the brain changes. There are certain chemicals in the brain that help transmit the signals among the brain cells from one brain cell to the next. They're called transmitter substances, or sometimes they're called neurotransmitters. Well, the fancy name doesn't matter, but what's important is that for whatever reasons, sometimes some of these chemicals get in short supply. And when the level of those chemicals drops, then one of the things that can happen is symptoms of depression can show up.
At first, the idea of seeing a doctor scared me. I was afraid I was crazy.
When I told her that we needed to go to a doctor who would test her, Claire started to cry. "Mom," she said, "I don't want to be crazy." I told her not to think of it that way. "This is an illness. When you are sick," I said, "a doctor can help to make you better. You are going to see a doctor who can help you to get well again. That's all."
I didn't want to go, but I did go, and in all honesty, I had fun. My doctor gave me some questions to answer. They were all about me. I had to draw some pictures, too, about what I like to do or about my family, also things that made me sad or scared. The one picture I didn't want to draw was the most embarrassing thing that ever happened to me. I was too embarrassed to draw it, so I just told him about it.
What was it about?
Never mind.
Did you see any other doctors?
Yeah, I saw a psychiatrist. Aren't you going to tell him about psychiatrists?
A psychiatrist is a medical doctor who has specialized in mental illness. He does many of the same things that a psychologist does, but sometimes he may prescribe psychotropic medications.
Those are medicines that help the brain to work properly.
And he carefully follows the effects of the medication on the illness.
Dr. Vanderveer had seen lots of kids like me. He helped me to see the need for treatment.
Well, treatment can make a life or death differences in a child's life. If they're seriously depressed and thinking of suicide, to have that change and have them find life as enjoyable and life has its goals, and to start moving towards those goals can be a tremendous boon, not just to the child, but most parents really enjoy watching their child reach out for life for themselves rather than seeing them depressed and unhappy. It's a very painful thing for a parent to watch a depressed child.
When Claire was first put on an antidepressant,
antidepressants are medicine that can help stop the depression.
It seemed miraculous. Within about a week, she was calm and able to manage her life again. I thought our troubles were over. But about 3 weeks later, Claire started to have episodes of rage, which sometimes became violent and were marked by screaming and threats. A new medication was tried, which also worked, but she began to develop a tolerance for it.
Medicine can be a hassle. At first, I was very tired, more tired than I had been without the medicine. Then, after a while, I felt great. That lasted for about 3 months. I thought maybe I didn't need it anymore. I went for about 3 days feeling great on no medicine, but on the 4th day, I felt terrible again. So I went back on my medicine, but it didn't seem to be working as well.
Medication is a major treatment for depression. There are many different drugs for depression. As every child is different, the exact drug or combination of drugs must be worked out with the psychiatrist over a period of time and often through trial and error. While medication may not completely eliminate the symptoms of depression, most persons with depression find that they are much better off with the medications than without them.
The druggist keeps track of the medication I'm taking. He can answer questions about my medications and their side effects.
Besides medication, treatment for depression has two other parts: psychotherapy and education. The reasons for depression are complex. We know that in major depressions, the brain is not working normally, but we don't fully understand why the brain stops working normally. One reason is probably genetic. The tendency for depression is passed from parents to children. We can also become depressed because of things that happen to us. Depression in children who have lost a parent in death or who lost their homes in a fire or hurricane would be easy to understand. Divorce, moves away from friends, long illnesses are also easily recognized as possible causes for depression. Other situations, such as abuse, are not so evident. Counseling sessions with a trained psychiatrist or clinical psychologist may be necessary to deal with these situations and to begin to remedy them. Even when the depression is due to purely biological causes, psychotherapy can be very useful to the child and to the family. It can help them come to terms with the illness and learn to live with it. The third element in the treatment of depression is education.
In the doctor's office were some pamphlets on depression. Boy, were they ever describing me. The doctor also gave my mom a book to read.
The more I read and learned, the better equipped I felt to deal with Claire, with the medications, with healthcare professionals and treatment plans. I also learned about support groups for parents and families of children with mental illness.
Support groups such as the Alliance for the Mentally Ill have chapters in every state and internationally. The Mental Health Association is another organization that helps persons with mental illness through education and advocacy.
When I got to know more about depression, I began to realize that some other kids I knew had the same symptoms that I did.
That's not surprising.
Why?
The symptoms of depression can often be missed because they look very much like the ups and downs of normal adolescence. But the consequence of depression can be devastating. Suicide is a leading cause of death among young people between the ages of 15 through 24.
So there are a lot of kids like me who need some extra help.
Children with major depression need professional help. Parents would not hesitate to seek treatment for a child with asthma or diabetes. Teachers know how to spot children who may suffer from hearing loss or poor eyesight. Yet some researchers estimate that the majority of children who suffer from depression go undiagnosed and untreated.
Man, why won't someone help them?
Many people are simply not aware that help is needed or what to do to get it. Parents, teachers, and other caregivers don't realize that the child is sick. Do you take health in school?
Doesn't everybody?
What do you study?
We study the body, how it works, and how to take care of it. We learn about the dangers to our health, like drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, sexually transmitted diseases, and AIDS.
Have you ever studied about mental illness?
No.
Even though it can be a leading cause of death among young people?
Well, our counselors talk to us about suicide, but not so much about mental illness.
Well, you're not alone. Many school systems teach about mental health, but do not mention mental illness even in health classes. Yet, these illnesses are common in children, have recognizable symptoms, and can be very successfully treated. When children who suffer from depression are treated with patience and understanding by those around them, they can actually be assisted in overcoming the effects of their disorder. When we can overcome ignorance, we will have done a great deal to overcome some of the worst aspects of mental illness, like failure to get treatment.
But I told a friend of mine about depression when I saw he had symptoms like mine. He still didn't go to a doctor.
Well, maybe he didn't feel he had your symptoms, or he might not want to go because mental illness has been stigmatized by our culture.
Has been what?
Stigmatized. A stigma is a mark of shame. Because we used to know so little about the causes of mental illness, people who suffered from it seemed strange. People with mental illness were outcasts, feared, and made fun of.
Oh, I know that. Dr. Vanderveer talked about that.
I think the stigma has dropped enormously, and that there isn't very much stigma left in terms of having depression or some kind of mental disorder. But there is an awful lot of worry that there will be stigma, worry that people will hold it against them, worry that it'll affect their job applications in later years. And these are really worries that don't have basis in fact anymore. In fact, it's against the law to do many of those things.
I don't tell everyone that I see a psychiatrist. I'm afraid they'll think I'm weird or make fun of me. I guess people just need to know more.
That's why we're doing this video.
Right.
So let's review. The treatment of depression has 3 components.
Components?
Parts. Here they are. Pharmacology, psychotherapy, family education. Do you want to explain them?
Okay.
Pharmacology.
Is that medicine?
Yes.
Medicine helps balance the chemicals in the brain so it can work properly. There are many different kinds of medicines, and everybody has to find one that works best for them. Sometimes medicine has side effects. A psychiatrist is a physician who helps you find the medicine that works best for you and has the fewest side effects.
Good. What about psychotherapy?
That's when you see a psychiatrist, psychologist, or a counselor. They give you some tests that aren't really like tests at all, but more like talking, and those question sheets I told you about. They help you to know if something outside you is causing you to be depressed, or if your body's doing it all on its own. They can also help you find ways to live with your illness, and you can talk to them about any problems your illness may cause you.
And finally, family education.
Everyone in my family needs to know about my illness, since they have to live with me. The more we know, the easier it is to deal with. In fact, everyone in the world needs to know more about mental illness. My doctors can give us information. So can different groups, such as the Alliance for the Mentally Ill, the Mental Health Association, and the Public Library. Television and movies has also been doing more to show mental illness as a medical problem.
So now we have seen that anyone of any age can get depressed and that it can be treated by professionals with medicine, psychotherapy, and education. Well, I guess that about finishes it.
I don't think so.
No?
No, there's still stuff we haven't talked about.
Like what?
Like living with depression, what helps and what doesn't.
Oh, I see, but I thought that's what we talked about in part 2.
No, see, if someone breaks their leg and they get a cast, then that's treatment. But they just can't go home and live like they did before. They have to kind of adjust. So I have depression and I have to learn to adjust. And I think we should put something in there about that.
That's a very good idea.
Okay.
Maybe we should call that part 3.
Part 3, creative?
Well, since you know so much about this, why don't you take it from here?
Okay, cool. You talk too much anyway. I'm just kidding, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. This is the awesome part. I'm going to tell you all about what it's like to live with depression, and I'm going to tell you how other people can help make it easier. There's nothing fancy or technical in this part, just the basics. I'm really glad that I got to a doctor and found out I had depression, because before I knew it was an illness that was making me feel bad, I thought it was me, that I was bad. Getting treatment has been a big help, but treatment only helps me manage the illness. It doesn't necessarily make it go away. Depression, like any other obstacle in my life, is a challenge. Everybody goes through challenges. These are the challenges of depression: feeling bad, side effects of medicine, worrying, being different. Sometimes when I get depressed, I kind of lay around the house and eat. I know that's sad, but it's true. Eventually, I'll end up calling one of my best friends and announce, "Hi, I'm depressed." They always give me a pep talk, and I usually end up feeling better. That's if I'm just bummed. But if I'm really miserable, like something happened at school or something, most of the time it's about a boy, okay? I'm 13, give me a break. I'll go to my mom and complain. I'll end up crying. Sometimes I just have to. But when I finish, I feel a little better. Exercise helps a lot too. It's good to get my body moving and sweating. That is, if I can get my body off the couch. When I get depressed, I don't want to do anything. Another challenge of depression is the side effects of the medication.
Even when I'm not feeling depressed, I have to deal with the side effects of the medicine. Most of the time, I wish I didn't have to take medicine. It can make my muscles knot up and make me feel stiff and sore. Sometimes I forget to take it, and I might even feel better. I like that, so I try to go a few more days without it. But without the medication, I can get really depressed. I can't think clearly. I get behind in my schoolwork. I just want to scream, and I do. Then I know that I need that medicine, and I go back to taking it. Sometimes I still can't sleep. Then I start to worry about things that happened that day. I wonder if the kids at school are really my friends or if they're just humoring me. I'll get up and go downstairs to fix myself a cup of herb tea, hoping my mom will see me and offer to rub my back. If she doesn't say anything, I worry that she's too busy and that I'm a burden on her. I wish that she would say, "Come on upstairs and I'll rub your back." I hate it when I have to ask her. I also worry that people will think I'm weird because I have a mental illness.
Hey, Star, I heard you meant the nutcase thing now.
Yeah, he's really loony.
Sorry, that guy's...
I hear kids making fun of mental illness, calling other kids psycho or mental or loony. I see movies or TV shows that show people with a mental illness as killers or as someone to be laughed at or as so strange and different that no one could believe that they're really human. I don't want people to think about me that way. Then I don't want anyone to know that I have this illness.
See you later.
Those are the hardest things, the challenges. Now for the good things, like good friends, understanding family, learning tricks, feeling good about myself, and helping others. Here are the best things for me. These are my friends. They help me more than anyone could know. If you were to tell someone, "Hey, guess what? I'm mentally ill," they might expect you to be weird. I was afraid I'd lose all my friends. But my friends are actually very good about it. They can be very comforting when I start crying. When I blow up at them, they just assume I missed my meds. One of my friends has lots of fun with it. When I tell her I missed my medicine, she hits the ground and screams, "Hit the deck, she'll be knocking over buildings." We'll come back here in a minute. I used to wonder what my friends would think about my depression. The truth is, they don't think about my depression. Sure, sometimes we talk about it. I'll answer a few questions, but usually we have more important things to talk about. My depression has actually brought me closer to my friends, whether they know it or not. I remember sitting on my porch one day and having my laugh turn into a horrible sob. All my friends started going into hysterics. All but one, that is. She sat down next to me and started rocking me. I'll never forget that, ever. My friends have done lots of little things like that, and it really helps. I will never forget those things. I asked them to be a part of this video because they're such an important part of my life. Here they are.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
Paul Ebert.
My name is Tim Dewey.
Darren Allen.
Oh, okay, yes, my friend has depression. It really doesn't matter that they have depression or anything because I didn't even know that she had depression until we had the movie. I had no clue at all that she had this.
I think she told me in 7th grade when I asked her why she slept in so much, and she said that she had depression, and I just didn't think that it could happen to Claire because she was always so happy, it seemed like to me.
I didn't know it because she didn't seem to have anything different than any other people, so it was shocking.
Yes, it surprised me.
At first, my reaction was I was just really worried about you because I didn't know like what it was, or I didn't know like if it would kill you or what. I just didn't know anything about it, so I was really worried.
What is she like when she has an episode? Well, she'll like draw herself away from everybody and stuff like that.
She's kind of moody sometimes.
You were like sad.
You just try to tell her that it's okay and it'll be all right.
Well, I would say Claire's just like anybody else, only she has something else. Just like I have psoriasis, and you wouldn't really know that. Right. I mean, it doesn't really show. She's just like everybody else.
When I found out she had depression, I don't think it really mattered to me because we were already friends, and I wasn't going to change my opinion about somebody just because they had a disorder like depression.
I'd say that the depression really didn't matter. It was what was inside that counted. And that's what I judge my friends on, not by what is outside or what's wrong with them.
Claire is an interesting person, and she's fun to be with, and we do crazy things like making footprints with finger paint in the bathtub.
Okay, Claire Freeze is funny, smart, good at teaching and helping out. She can be a really great friend, and she's nice to be around.
My parents have also been a good part of my illness. Believe it or not, my parents and I have actually become closer since I found out I have depression.
What's this for?
My mom is much more understanding of me now. She tries to be there when I really need her. Sometimes when I start hitting myself or saying I'm going to kill myself, she's the only one who can help.
There are all kinds of scenarios that could have occurred had she not had some treatment. Many of them could have been quite unfortunate ones.
I think that had we not gotten her treatment, I think she would have had to at least have been hospitalized. But she was also speaking, she was having suicidal ideology. And that is definitely a possibility. The difference between then and now is very gratifying.
When my friends don't get it or my parents aren't there, I can always talk to my siblings.
Well, I would say it's really not that bad.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. 99% of the time, it's just like any other family. And then the 1% of the time, the other 1% of the time, it gets a little intense, but
yeah.
It's nothing we can't handle.
I've also learned some tricks that help me to manage better. My mom wrote a letter to my teachers that goes in my file, and she checks to make sure every teacher gets a copy of it at the beginning of every year. It explains my illness and how it can affect me, so that if I should start to cry in school, they won't be upset. I work out with them some little signals so that if I feel like I'm going to cry, I can just leave the class and go to some quiet place we agree on until I get control again. They also watch for changes in my behavior that might be a sign that my medication isn't working so well. We also worked out with my counselor that I take my hardest classes at the end of the day. Then, if I had a bad night, I can sleep in and come in late. Of course, I have to make up all my work, and it also means I might have to walk 1.5 miles to school, so I try not to do that too often. Another thing that has helped me is getting my medicine organized. Sometimes I'd forget if I had taken it or not. We bought one of those pill boxes with the days of the week written on top. I put out all my medicine at the beginning of the week. Then, each day, I know if I've taken my medicine. Living with my illness is my responsibility. I take the medicine myself, although my mom sometimes checks. I also know I have to plan ahead to make sure I get the rest I need. If there's going to be a lot of excitement on a weekend, for example, like a dance or a party and a sleepover, or a major report due for school, I just can't do it all. I might decide not to go to the party, or go to part of the sleepover, but come home early so I can sleep in the morning. It makes me feel good to know I can take care of myself. When I have a really good day, like when my teacher compliments me, or my friends say something or do something nice, I write it in my diary. Then, when I'm having a bad day, I can read it, and I guess I feel a little better. I've learned a lot from my illness, and I'm proud to be able to handle it. I've had a lot of help, and it makes me feel good that so many people care. My family, my doctors, my teachers, the staff at school, and my good friends all help me to get well and stay well. That makes me want to help others. If anyone I knew was threatening to kill themselves or doing anything that made me think they were depressed, the worst thing I could do is ignore it. No one likes to be ignored, but when you're depressed and people ignore you, it just proves no one cares about you. You feel you're just not worth it. I'd talk to them, let them know that I care. If I'm close to them, I'd rock them, hold them, even if I didn't know it's wrong. Chances are, he or she is in real need. I'd be persistent, even annoying, anything, just so they don't walk away feeling bad. Most of all, if someone I knew seemed depressed, I'd tell them not to wait to get help. If you were drowning and the person next to you in the pool wouldn't help you, you wouldn't stop there. You'd keep calling for help, right? Find someone who cares. Tell them exactly how you feel. Don't be scared. The only thing that can happen is that they'll help you. Things will get better.
I used to be some kind of no one. I used to feel angry and mean. I didn't care where I was going. I didn't care where I had been. But no more. No more. I feel good. I feel fine. I feel good.
Crying all night on my pillow, lying awake in my room. Every day worse than the last one. Nothing before me but gloom.
But no more. No more. I feel good. I feel fine. I feel good.
You probably wondered what happened. I'll tell you, my life turned around. 'Cause you made me see you were there for me, and you got my feet back on the ground.
I feel good. I feel fine. I feel good.
I feel good. I feel fine. I feel good.
I couldn't pull out of that free fall, no matter how hard I would try. Nobody knew I was dragging so low, I just wanted to die. But no more. No more. I feel good. I feel fine. I feel good. I'm clicking my heels in the sunlight. I'm dancing my way through the rain. I'm turning my back on that misery, and I'll never be found there again. No more. No more. I feel good. I feel fine. I feel good.
Oh yeah.
I feel good.
I feel fine. I feel good.
Okay, Claire. Now you get yours.